The phone rang at 11:47 at night. I know the exact time because I had just turned off the news and was heading to bed, and I looked at the clock on the microwave as I passed through the kitchen. I almost didn't answer. I am 68 years old and I have learned that nothing good ever comes from a phone call at midnight. But something made me pick it up. "Is this Earl Whitmore?" A woman's voice. Young, professional, careful in the way people are careful when they are about to deliver news that will change your life. "Speaking," I said. "Mr. Whitmore, my name is Greta Walsh. I am a social worker with Hamilton General Hospital. I am calling about a child who was brought in earlier this evening by paramedics. He was found alone on the shoulder of the 403 near the Dundas exit. He is physically stable, but he has been asking for someone named Grandpa Earl for the past 4 hours." I held the phone against my ear and felt nothing for a moment. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a streetcar on Barton Street. "You have the wrong number," I said. "I don't have a grandson." There was a pause. "Mr. Whitmore," the boy had a photograph in his coat pocket. "It's a Christmas photo. 2 people, a man and a woman standing in front of a tree. On the back, someone wrote Earl Whitmore and a phone number. That number is this one." The refrigerator kept humming. I sat down on the kitchen floor without meaning to. That photograph. I knew exactly which one it was. My wife Doris and me, Christmas of 2018, standing in front of the fake spruce tree she used to put up every November because she said December was too late. It was the last Christmas before the cancer came. How did a child I had never met have that photograph? "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. I have lived in Hamilton my whole life, 68 years in the same city, 31 of them working the floor at Stelco before they rebranded and restructured us out of existence. I know this city the way you know the inside of your own house in the dark. Every pothole, every shortcut, every neighborhood that used to be good, and every one that still is. I drove to Hamilton General on autopilot, my hands doing what they always did while my brain did something it had not done in a long time. It prayed. The social worker met me in the lobby. Greta Walsh was younger than her voice, maybe 30, with tired eyes that had seen too much. She walked me down a corridor that smelled of antiseptic and old coffee, and stopped outside a room with a small window. "He's resting," she said. "He won't tell us his name. He just keeps asking for you." I looked through the window. He was small, curled on his side on top of the hospital blanket, still wearing the clothes they must have found him in. Muddy sneakers, a gray hoodie 2 sizes too big, dark skin, close-cropped hair. He was sleeping now, one hand tucked under his chin. And then I saw his ear. It sounds like a strange thing to notice first, but it was the shape of his ear, the slight overhang of the upper cartilage, the way the lobe sat, that stopped the air in my lungs. Because I had seen that ear every morning for 23 years, leaning over a breakfast table, complaining about school or hockey practice or something I had said the night before. That was my son Devon's ear. I pushed open the door before Greta Walsh could say another word. The boy woke up the moment I stepped inside. He sat up fast the way kids do when they are not sleeping deeply but just waiting. His eyes found mine. They were Devon's eyes, too. Exactly Devon's eyes, that particular shade of dark brown with a ring of amber near the center, like a cup of tea held up to a window. "Grandpa Earl," he whispered. The room went sideways. I grabbed the foot of the bed. "Who told you about me?" I managed. "My mom," he said. "She said if I was ever lost or scared, I should find Grandpa Earl in Hamilton. She said you were the safest person in the world." His name was Jasper. He was 6 years old. His mother's name was Keisha, and 3 days before I found him, Keisha had been killed when her car left the highway near Stony Creek and went into the embankment. The police had ruled it a single-vehicle accident. Jasper had been in the back seat. He had crawled out through the rear window when he couldn't wake his mother up, and he had walked for 2 hours along the shoulder of the highway until his legs gave out. The paramedics had found him at 7 in the evening, sitting on the guardrail with the photograph in his hands, saying he needed to get to Hamilton. I sat in that hospital room until 4 in the morning, holding his hand while he slept, trying to understand how I had a grandson I never knew existed. My son Devon lived in Burlington, 40 minutes away by the highway. He had been working in commercial real estate for the past 8 years, ever since he married Serena Caldwell, whose father Reginald Caldwell had built half the condo towers along the lakeshore. Devon had left Steel Country behind and entered a different world entirely. The world of charity galas at the convention center and season tickets to Tiger Cats games and suits that cost more than my monthly pension check. He had also apparently left other things behind. I tried calling him from the hospital parking garage. Voicemail. At 5:30 in the morning I sent a text that said only, "Devon, call me, it's urgent." My phone sat silent the whole drive home. Greta Walsh arranged for Jasper to come home with me on a temporary basis, while Children's Aid did their assessment. I was his only identified family contact. Keisha had no emergency contacts in her records, no listed next of kin, no family in the area, just a photograph with my name on the back. I made the boy scrambled eggs and toast. He ate like he hadn't seen food in days, which, thinking about it, he probably hadn't. He sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Devin used to do his homework, where Doris used to read her library books on Sunday mornings, and he looked at the pictures on the shelf above the radiator. "Is that your wife?" he asked, pointing at Doris. "She was," I said. "She passed away 4 years ago." He was quiet for a moment. "Then my mom is gone too." We sat with that for a while. The boy finished his eggs. "Jasper," I said, careful, "did your mom ever talk about Devin, a man named Devin Whitmore?" He nodded immediately without hesitation. "That's my dad. Mom said he had to go away before I was born. She said he had other things he had to do." He said it the way 6-year-olds repeat things they have been told so many times the words come out flat, like something memorized. A script someone wrote to explain an absence that could not be honestly explained. "Before I tell you what I found on Keisha's phone that the police had missed, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop it in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for the truth alone, hit that like button. This channel exists because of people like you who refuse to stay quiet." Devin called it noon. He had the smooth, slightly too casual voice of a man who had already decided what this conversation was going to be. "Devin," I said, "I have your son sitting in my living room." The line went quiet. "A boy named Jasper," I said. "His mother was Keisha. She died 3 days ago on the 403. The boy had my name and number in his pocket." What came out over the next 20 minutes was not a confession. It was a negotiation. Devin was careful with words the way people are careful when they are afraid of what the wrong word will cost them. He told me that he and Keisha had been together before he met Serena, that things had ended, that Keisha had told him she was pregnant only after they had already separated, and by that point he was already deep in Reginald Caldwell's world and there was no clean way to. "No clean way to what?" I said. He didn't finish the sentence. "Does Serena know?" I asked. Another pause that told me everything. "She found out about Keisha last year," he said. "She handled it." She handled it. I looked at Jasper in the living room, lying on his stomach watching a cartoon on the old television I kept meaning to replace. 6 years old, 2 days without his mother, sleeping in a stranger's house because the only name his mother trusted was mine. The Children's Aid worker arrived 4 days after Jasper came to stay. Her name was Miss Fenwick, and she came with a clipboard and a look that I recognized, the look of someone who had been told what to expect before they walked through the door. She asked Jasper to wait in the living room with the television on. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "we received a report this morning from a concerned party. The report alleges that you have a history of erratic and aggressive behavior, that you are currently managing a dementia diagnosis without adequate supervision, and that this home environment may not be suitable for a child." I stared at her. "Dementia," I said. "The report also states that you keep unsecured firearms on the premises." I put my hands flat on the table. 31 years on the floor at Stelco will leave a mark on your hands. I pressed them down so they would not shake. "Mrs. Fenwick," I said, "I have never been diagnosed with anything. I shoot trap at the Rod and Gun Club, and my shotgun is locked in a case in the basement with the trigger lock on. I have lived in this neighborhood for 38 years. Ask anyone on this street who I am." She looked at her clipboard. She did not look at me. "I understand this is distressing," she said, "but given the report, we have an obligation." "Who filed the report?" "We can't disclose that." I already knew. There was only one person who had the motive and the connections to make a call that could arrive at a government office and be acted on within 72 hours. Serena Caldwell didn't do things halfway. They took Jasper that afternoon. 2 officers accompanied Miss Fenwick. Jasper was in the kitchen eating an apple when he heard the knock. He came to the doorway and saw the uniforms and the clipboard, and he understood something was wrong before any of us said a word. He was 6 years old. He had already lost his mother. He knew what adults with clipboards meant. "Grandpa Earl," he said, not a shout, just a quiet statement of fact. I knelt down in front of him. My knees have not been good since 2019, and they popped when I went down, and Jasper flinched at the sound, then almost smiled. "You're going to go with these people for a little while," I said. "Are they the bad people?" "No," I said, and I meant it. Miss Fenwick was not bad. She was being used by someone bad, and those are not the same thing, even when they feel the same from the other side. "But I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" He grabbed my hand with both of his. His grip was surprisingly strong for a 6-year-old. Will you come get me? I will always come for you, I said. That's a Whitmore promise. He let go of my hand. He walked out with Miss Fenwick. He looked back at me twice from the front walk. The third time he didn't look back, and I think that took more courage than anything I had done that week. I stood on the porch until the car turned off Barton Street and disappeared. I understood then that Serena Caldwell wasn't just protecting a secret. She was trying to erase a person. A 6-year-old boy who had Devon's eyes and his mother's stubbornness and my name written on a Christmas photograph. The next morning, my bank notified me by phone that my accounts at TD had been flagged for irregular activity and temporarily restricted pending a fraud review. That afternoon, I walked down to the Tim Hortons on Main Street for a coffee, and 2 women I had known for 20 years looked past me like I was not there. By evening, someone had posted to the Hamilton Neighborhood Watch Group a screenshot of a 30-year-old civil property dispute, framed as a violent incident. My neighbor, Mrs. Souza, who had brought my groceries when Doris was sick, and who had never once been anything but kind to me, drew her curtain when she saw me on the front step. This is how it is done now. You do not need to burn a cross. You just need a phone and a willingness to lie. I had known Amos Grant since we were both 22 working the same shift at Stelco. He had gone into union organizing, 30 years fighting for working people through the CO and then Unifor, and he still wore the union jacket even in retirement because he said some things you do not take off. I called him that night. I can't pay you, I said. I wasn't asking, he said. What do you need? Cecil Barnes had been a Crown attorney in Hamilton for 22 years before he exposed a bail bondsman splitting kickbacks with a sitting judge. The Law Society found reasons to end his career. The way institutions always find reasons when honesty becomes inconvenient. He had been driving courier runs ever since. He had a memory like a steel trap, and he still knew half the lawyers in the province. And there was Winston Beauchamp, who had come from Trinidad to Hamilton in 1978, raised 3 children, built a community center on the mountain, and who had in his previous life before a different kind of calling found him, known how to find information that people did not wish to be found. He was 71 now and ran an after-school program. But some skills do not leave you. The 3 of them met me at Tim Hortons on Main on a Tuesday morning, and I told them everything. When I finished, Cecil leaned back and looked at the ceiling. So you're fighting a family with 2 retained law firms and a development portfolio worth roughly $400 million, he said. That's what it looks like, I said. And your assets? My pension and about $7,000 in a savings account they haven't gotten to yet. Cecil nodded slowly. The good news, he said, is that makes you very difficult to pressure. You don't have enough to lose. Amos cracked his knuckles. What do you need from us, Earl? Truth, I said, and I need it fast enough to matter. Winston leaned forward. The accident, he said, you don't believe it. Keisha was 32 years old, I said. She drove that stretch of the 403 every day for 3 years, and she had a 6-year-old in the back seat. Winston nodded once. Some things don't require elaboration. What Winston found took him 4 days, and I will not ask how he found it. Keisha had a dash cam on her car, a small unit mounted behind the rearview mirror, the kind you buy at Canadian Tire for $80. What made it different was that she had set it to upload automatically to cloud storage every time it connected to her home Wi-Fi. The last upload had happened 6 hours before the crash. The footage showed everything. It showed a black Escalade pulling alongside Keisha's car on the 403 at 9:47 in the evening. It showed the Escalade drifting into her lane. It showed Keisha swerving, overcorrecting, losing the shoulder. And it showed the Escalade's front license plate, clear as anything, caught in her headlights in the last moment before the embankment. That plate came back to a numbered company registered in Ontario. The company's registered agent was Caldwell Properties, Inc. I sat in Winston's office with that information in my hands and felt something shift in my chest. Not rage, something colder than rage, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. There is a particular kind of clarity that comes when you have nothing left to protect and everything left to do. My house could be next. My reputation was already gone, and Jasper was somewhere in a CAS facility, waiting for a Whitmore promise to be kept. None of the rest of it mattered. My son called me from a private number on a Thursday evening and asked if we could meet. He sounded thin, the way Devon always sounded when he was frightened, like someone had let the air out of him. I told him to come to Cecil's house, not mine. I had a reason for that. Cecil had a voice recorder running on the kitchen table under a folded copy of The Spectator. Devon didn't notice it. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He was wearing a fleece and jeans, which I hadn't seen him in since before Burlington. He sat across from me and put his head in his hands before he even spoke. She knows about the dashcam footage, he said. She has someone inside the OPP detachment. They're going to make it disappear. It's already been copied to 3 separate locations, I said. It won't disappear. Devin looked up. Dad, I didn't know it would go this far. When Serena found out about Keisha and Jasper last year, she said she would handle it, and I told myself she meant money. A settlement, a relocation arrangement. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. You didn't want to know, I said. He was crying by then. I watched him do it and did not look away. Devin, I said, your son walked 2 hours along a highway in the dark looking for me, because his mother told him I was the safest person in the world, and you had kept yourself from knowing he existed in any real way. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Tell me what Serena has on you, I said, all of it. It was the money. It is always the money. Devin had been signing off on permits and property valuations for Caldwell's development projects, approving numbers that did not match the actual assessments. The investor's money, not his. CRA would call it fraud. Reginald Caldwell had every document, every email, every signature. She owns you, I said. He didn't answer. I reached across the table and put my hand on his shoulder the way I used to when he was young, and I had something hard to say. I have the dashcam footage, I told him. I have the license plate. I have evidence tying that vehicle to Caldwell Properties. I have a recording of Serena threatening me. I paused, and I need you to be a Crown witness. Devin looked up. If you cooperate, I said, there are provisions. Cecil will walk you through it. The fraud is complicated, but it doesn't have to end everything. If you stay quiet, you lose Jasper. You lose whatever is left of your conscience. And the next time Serena decides someone is inconvenient, you won't have the luxury of pretending you didn't know what she was capable of. He wiped his face with his sleeve. I want to meet him, Devin said. I want to meet my son. Then help me get him back, I said. I looked at him. This man who used to cry over perch he caught at the creek out near Flamborough when he was 7 because he felt bad for the fish. Somewhere in Burlington he had lost something essential. I did not know if he could find it again, but he was still my son, and his son was waiting. Devin nodded. Okay, Dad, he said, I'll do it. The Caldwell Foundation's annual fundraising dinner was held at the Hamilton Convention Center on a Friday evening in October. 400 guests, provincial politicians, development executives. The kind of event where the guest list is curated and the speeches are all about giving back to the community. The theme that year was Building Better Futures for Children. I know. Cecil had a contact from his Crown days who was now practicing civil litigation and had connections to the RCMP's Financial Crimes Unit. The dashcam footage and the documents went to that unit 4 days before the dinner. An inspector named Singh reviewed them and called Cecil at 11 that morning to confirm a warrant was being obtained. He also mentioned very quietly that it would be helpful if there were media present. Amos called a friend at CHCH. Cecil called a reporter at the Hamilton Spectator who had been trying to get something on Caldwell Properties for 2 years. Winston made 2 phone calls I never asked him to explain. We did not have tuxedos. Amos showed up in his best dark blazer and the old uniform jacket underneath it, which he refused to remove. Cecil wore a gray suit from his Crown years. Winston wore what Winston always wore, a pressed white shirt, a burgundy tie, and the quiet dignity of a man who has nothing to prove to anyone. I wore my good black jacket, the one I had worn to Doris's funeral. I had not worn it since. We went in through the catering entrance. The young man with the clipboard barely looked up. Inside, the convention center smelled of expensive food and ambition, white linens, centerpieces, LED candles. Reginald Caldwell was already at the podium working the room, talking about legacy. He was 70 years old and looked like money, gray temples, the kind of tan you don't get from the Hamilton waterfront. Serena sat at the head table to his left. Black dress, hair up. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who expected to run this room for the next 40 years. Devin was beside her. He looked like a man sitting at his own funeral. He looked up when I came in and something moved across his face. Not relief, not yet, but the beginning of it. At 8:15, Serena took the podium. She talked about children's futures and the responsibility of those with privilege to ensure the next generation inherited something worth having. At 8:22, the doors at the back of the room opened. 4 RCMP officers, Inspector Singh in a dark suit, 2 people from CRA Financial Crimes, Cecil's lawyer who had filed civil proceedings that afternoon. The room felt it before anyone announced anything. The change in the air, the way 400 people suddenly went very quiet. I stepped out from beside the pillar where I had been standing. Serena saw me first. She was looking out at the room and she found me across 200 feet of white linen and candlelight, and the expression on her face did not change outwardly, but something in her eyes did. A recognition, a recalculation. Inspector Singh reached the stage. Messrs. Serena Caldwell Whitmore. His voice was measured and absolutely clear in the silence. I need you to step away from the podium, please. She laughed. It was a performance. Inspector, whatever this is, I am in the middle of a charity event. Criminal Code provisions regarding conspiracy to commit manslaughter do not pause for charity events, Inspector Singh said. Please step away from the podium. She looked at her father. Reginald Caldwell looked at the officers. Then he looked at Devon, and Devon, for the first time in 8 years, did not look away. Serena looked at me. You don't have anything, she said. Controlled still. You're an old man. You came here in the dark with nothing. I came here with the dashcam footage from Keisha's car, I said. My voice carried in that room. It surprised me how well it carried. I came here with the license plate of the vehicle that ran her off the highway. I came here with financial records showing that vehicle is tied to your family's holding company. I paused. And I came here with my grandson's name. Something broke in her face then. Not the composure held a moment longer, but something underneath it gave way, the way ice gives way on Lake Ontario in April, silent and sudden, and then all at once. I want a lawyer, she said. That is your right, Inspector Singh said. They led her off the stage. Reginald Caldwell didn't move to stop it. He sat down heavily in a chair by the podium and put his face as his hands. And I understood that some things even money cannot hold together once the weight comes down on them. Devon walked toward me through the room. People moved out of his way, not because he asked them to, but because of the look on his face. I gave them the preliminary statement yesterday, he said when he reached me. Everything, like Cecil and I discussed. I know, I said. He looked at me the way he used to when he was small and had done something wrong and was waiting to find out how bad it was going to be. What happens now, he said. Now, I said, we go get your son. Jasper came home on a Tuesday morning, 8 days after they had taken him. Greta Walsh brought him herself, which I think was her way of making a point, that she was not Serena Caldwell's instrument, that she was something different from what she had been used as. He walked through the front door of my house on Barton Street and stood in the hallway and looked at the light coming through the kitchen window and said, "It smells like your eggs." I had made scrambled eggs that morning because I didn't know what else to do. He ate them at the same table. I sat across from him and didn't say anything, because some moments do not need words, and you learn that at 68 if you haven't learned it before. Devon came by that afternoon. He stood on the front porch and I let him stand there a moment before I opened the door all the way. Not to make him wait, but because I needed to see his face first. He looked like himself again. Thinner, less polished, more honest. I brought him into the living room. Jasper was on the floor with the 500-piece puzzle of Niagara Falls. Devon sat on the couch and looked at his son. "Hey," he said quietly. Jasper looked up. He studied Devon for a long moment with the full seriousness of a 6-year-old confronting something complicated. "Is this my dad?" he asked, looking at me. "It is," I said. Jasper looked back at Devon, considered this, then okay, and went back to his puzzle. Devon let out a breath he had probably been holding for 6 years. It is May now. The lake is open and the light is different from the October light, softer in the mornings, sharper at noon. Jasper and I drive out to Confederation Beach on Saturdays with a tackle box and 2 rods, and we sit on the dock and fish for perch, and mostly don't catch anything, which Jasper does not seem to mind at all. He talks constantly while we fish. He talks about school, which he started in January, and which he seems to like in the way children like something new before the novelty fades. He talks about Amos, who comes over on Sundays and has appointed himself Jasper's unofficial hockey mentor despite the fact that Amos has not skated in 15 years. He talks about his mother. He talks about his mother often and without the weight adults put on that kind of talking. He says things like Mom used to make jerk chicken on Fridays, and Mom said Hamilton was the best city if you could get past the winters. He says these things the way you say facts about the world, simply, because they are true and he wants them to be known. Serena is awaiting trial. The charge is conspiracy to commit manslaughter. Reginald Caldwell's development company is under CRA audit and 3 civil suits. Devon entered into a cooperation agreement and has surrendered his license in commercial real estate. He is renting a place in the North End 6 blocks from me. He comes for dinner on Thursdays. We are not where we were, we may never be. But we are somewhere new and it is real, and I will take real over polished every time. I lost a marriage I thought would last forever when Doris got sick. I spent 4 years in this house being hollowed out by the particular silence of a home where someone used to be. And then a phone rang at 11:47 at night, and a woman's voice told me a little boy was asking for me, and I drove to that hospital in the dark not knowing what I was driving toward. What I was driving toward was this: Saturdays on the dock, scrambled eggs on Tuesday morning, a boy who has his father's eyes and his mother's stubbornness, and who has started, very slowly, to learn that Whitmore promises hold. Jasper tugs my sleeve. "Grandpa Earl," he says, "I think I've got something." The line has gone taut. He's gripping the rod with both hands, feet planted exactly the way I showed him. "Hold it steady," I tell him. "Don't rush." He waits and then he reels it in.